Hello students, welcome to your biology midterm. For this exam, you can use this as the audio. I will use the arrow like this to show you where I am on the page. Feel free to scrub to just what you need in order to listen to the questions if you need a reader and would like to follow along with audio. Instructions. Complete the questions below to the best of your ability. Feel free to use the shared midterm study guide, notes, Ms. Gilman's YouTube channel, Google, old homeworks, labs, etc. Rules. Do not consult classmates, siblings, parents, or family, other teachers, Mr. Wallen, your pets, etc. All answers that are more than just one word must be in your own words, no copy and paste. Good luck. Question 1. In humans, which body structure prevents food from entering the trachea? A. Epiglottis. B. Alveolus. C. Cartilage ring. D. Mucous membrane. Question 2. Which gas is released as a waste product of autotrophic nutrition in maple trees? A. Nitrogen. B. Oxygen. C. Methane. D. Hydrogen. Page 2, question 3. Extensive damage to the large intestine would have the greatest effect on A. Glucose metabolism. B. Protein synthesis. C. Enzyme secretion. D. Water reabsorption. 4. ATP is a compound that is synthesized during which process? A. Plants use light energy to produce glucose in photosynthesis. B. Organisms convert glucose and oxygen to energy in cell respiration. C. Energy stored in nitrogen is released, forming amino acids. D. Digestive enzymes break down amino acids into smaller parts. Question 5. The cellular process which uses oxygen and sugar to produce energy is called A. Photosynthesis, B. Cell division, C. Cellular respiration, or D. DNA replication. Question 6. What is the role of bile in the digestive system? A. It mechanically digests fats through emulsification. B. It chemically digests sugars by releasing insulin. C. It is stored in the rectum and assists with compaction. D. It is released in the mouth and contains enzymes that digest starch. 7. Which process is represented by the diagram below? Fat globules, fat droplets. A. Emulsification. B. Absorption. C. Excretion. D. Peristalsis. Page 3, question 8. Which metabolic process is most closely associated with the organelles shown below? A. Intracellular digestion. B. Synthesis of glycogen. C. Aerobic respiration. D. Hydrolysis of lipids. 9. Microorganisms that cause disease are known as A. Enzymes. B. Pathogens. C. Antibodies. D. Hosts. 10. Many vaccinations stimulate the immune system by exposing it to A. Antibodies. B. Enzymes. C. Mutated genes. D. Weakened pathogens. 11. The process of active transport directly requires the use of A. Carbon dioxide. B. Adenosine triphosphate. C. Amino acids. D. Glucose. Question 12. When the immune system attacks a typically harmless substance, which disorder could develop? A. Cancer. B. An allergy. C. AIDS. D. An infection. 13. The image below represents the setup for an experiment. 2 black paper discs are placed on both sides of 2 leaves. Black paper discs. What results would this experimental setup most likely demonstrate? A. Glucose is necessary for photosynthesis. B. Protein is a product of photosynthesis. C. Light is necessary for photosynthesis. D. Carbon dioxide is a product of photosynthesis. 14. Humans have many cells that are deep inside the body, so the human body requires A. A transport system and other organs. B. Carbon dioxide from the air. C. The synthesis of many inorganic compounds. D. The breakdown of glucose by the digestive system. Page 5, question 15. Which statement about the organisms represented below is correct? Flowering plant, mosquito larva, frog, green heron, aquatic plant, not drawn to scale. A. All of the organisms are autotrophs. B. The plant, the heron, and the frog carry out photosynthesis. C. Only the frog and the green heron carry out photosynthesis. D. All of the organisms are eukaryotic. They contain organelles, including nuclei, with DNA. 16. Which of the following occurs when there is an infection in the body? A. Decrease in the activity of antigens produced by the mitochondria. B. Decrease in the activity of DNA present in the nuclei of cells. C. Increase in the activity of white blood cells. D. Increase in the number of red blood cells. 17. If body temperature is too high, some blood vessels increase in size and sweat glands excrete sweat, resulting in a lower body temperature. These changes are an example of A. A learned behavior. B. Feedback mechanisms. C. An inherited disorder. D. Genetic mutations. 18. Research shows that treadmill training increases the number of certain energy-releasing structures in the brain cells of rats. The cellular structures referred to in this study are most likely A. Mitochondria, B. Vacuoles, C. Nuclei, D. Ribosomes. 19. An increase in the level of insulin in the blood would most directly result in A. A decrease in the amount of glucose in the blood. B. A decrease in the amount of protein in the blood. C. An increase in the amount of fat cells. D. An increase in the amount of carbon dioxide in cells. 20. An activity that occurs in the human body is shown below. This activity helps A. Provide protection against pathogens. B. Produce antibiotics to control disease. C. Eliminate harmful gene alterations. D. Regulate production of ATP by the cell. Antibody, antigen. Harmless skin virus fights acne. Acne is caused when pores become blocked with an oily substance called sebum, which the body makes to prevent hair and skin from drying out. Normally, harmless bacteria such as Propionibacterium acnes that live on the skin can then contaminate and infect the plugged follicles. Phages, a type of virus, appear to help counteract this. When the scientists sequenced the DNA of the phages, they discovered that the viruses all had some key features in common. All carry a gene that makes a protein called endolysin, an enzyme thought to destroy bacteria by breaking down their cell walls. Unlike antibiotics, which kill many types of bacteria, including good ones that live in our gut, phages are programmed to target only specific bacteria. 21. This treatment for acne using phages is effective because phages, A. Produce antibodies to clean out clogged pores and hair follicles. B. Eliminate bacteria by attacking specific cell structures. C. Carry genes and infect follicles. D. Attack every known type of bacteria. 22. The typical response of the human body to an infection by a bacteria is to A. Stimulate the production of antigens. B. Decrease the number of enzymes in the blood. C. Ignore the organisms unless they are pathogens. D. Produce white blood cells and antibodies. 23. The diagram above shows a process important to synthesis and/or digestion in the human body. In your response, be sure to explain why substance X can only digest this organic compound. 1 point. Identify 2 factors that directly influence the rate of this reaction. 1 point. Explain why changing the shape of substance X could affect its ability to function. 1 point. X, original organic compound, products. 24. As fish are frozen for storage, the water in the cells expands as it cools from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius and may cause cells to burst. This lowers the quality of the fish. Explain how soaking the fish briefly in salt water before freezing them might prevent this damage to the cells. 2 points. 25. There are 8 life processes that all organisms must do in order to maintain homeostasis. Choose any 2 of the following processes to explain. In your answer, be sure to Identify 2 of the 8 life processes or functions that are performed when meeting the energy demand of a cell or an organism. 2 points. Explain how these 2 life functions interact to make energy available to an organism. 2 points. Explain what could happen to an organism if it is not able to complete one of these processes. 1 point. Choose 2 of these processes: respiration, reproduction, regulation, synthesis, excretion, or transport. 26. A bacterial culture was grown in a lab for 2 days. As the bacteria reproduced, the population of the culture was measured every 6 hours. Bacterial growth, time in hours, 0, 6, 18, 30, 48. Population in millions, 2.0, 4.5, 16.0, 28.0, 37.0. Example. Mark an appropriate scale on the graph below based on the table. 1 point. Double-click on the grid to edit. Click where you'd like to mark the scale and text boxes should appear so you can label. Plot the data on the grid provided. 1 point. Double-click on the image to edit like you did before. Use the scribble tool or add shapes to plot the points. Connect the points with the line function. See example above. 1 point. Bacterial growth, population, millions, time, hours. Question 27 is based on the graph you created. If data for the growth of bacterial population, see graph, continued to be recorded, would the data point at 60 hours be above or below 37 million? Explain. 2 points. An experiment was carried out to answer the question, does the pH of water affect the growth of radish plants? 2 groups of 10 radish plants were set up. One group was watered with a pH of 3.0, and the other group was watered with a pH of 7.0. Both groups of plants received the same amount and intensity of light, the same amount of water, and were grown in the same type of soil. The height of the plants was measured every 3 days for 2 weeks. 28. Which action might help to increase the validity of this experiment? A. Repeating the experiment several times. B. Using 2 different types of radish seeds in each group. C. Using the same pH for both groups of plants. D. Placing one set of plants in sunlight and one in darkness. 29. What was the dependent variable of this experiment? A. Heights of the plants. B. pH of the water. C. Type of soil. D. Temperature of the water. 30. Which of the following is a possible hypothesis tested in the experiment? A. Does the pH of water affect the growth of radish plants? B. Will the amount of water alter the heights of the radish plants? C. The temperature of the water will affect the height of the radish plants. D. The pH of the water will affect the heights of the radish plants. A student was setting up beakers that contained different solutions in order to conduct a laboratory investigation, but the next day he could not tell which beaker contained the starch and water mixture. In order to find out which beaker contained starch, he took a small sample from each of the beakers and conducted a test for starch on each of them. 31. Describe the test for starch that the student should use and the result that would indicate the presence of starch. 2 points. Reflection. 3 free points. Please reflect and answer the following questions thoughtfully. 1. What has been your favorite thing we've done so far this year in class, and what would you like to do more of in the future? Hint, this can be an activity, a type of review, a topic, or something else biology related. 2. What has been the easiest or most exciting thing we've done in biology class this year? 3. What has been the most challenging part of the class this year? Could be a concept, an assignment, or a general struggle. If you answer these 3 questions, you will automatically get 3 points on your test. Great way to get 3 free points. Congratulations on making it to the end of your midterm. Here's the final question, and it is a bonus and a challenge question. If you get it right, it's 3 extra points on your test, meaning if you got 3 points off, you now have a net of 0 points off. If you got a 100 on your test, that means you now have a 103. If you got a 97, you're up to a 100. If you got a 60, you're up to a 63, and so on. Try this question if you have time and want the extra challenge. Miss Gilman has been experiencing hives, a minor allergic reaction, to an unknown source. Typically, she manages these with an antihistamine like Zyrtec or Claritin. She wants to get a COVID-19 vaccine now that she is eligible. Should Miss Gilman be concerned that the antihistamine might interact with the vaccine and make the vaccine ineffective? Why or why not? Support your answer with your knowledge of the immune system. Ta-da! When you're finished, you may turn in and log off of Zoom. Have a great weekend. If you need more time, there is more time after lunch today.